Hey,
Hello.
welcome to the weekly wrap up. We are
Hello and
live
welcome.
on YouTube, X, and in the group at Getting Started in Crypto.
We are, and the Wi-Fi, I must admit, is struggling a little bit my end, but we are live and hopefully rocking for everyone. So apologies if it does stutter throughout, but we should be good. We should be okay.
Fingers crossed.
Fingers
So, with
crossed.
that said, we're going to jump straight into it.
Yeah,
So,
you lead.
because I'm not sure how long this is going to last. So, let's just jump straight into this. So we've got Bitcoin, boring, and a bit more boring. So if you're on X, I've seen some incredibly low predictions for Bitcoin. Anything's possible, but I don't think that is possible. We're not looking like we've got, shorts that or longs, sorry, that we're needing to destroy. So that's not going to affect anything here. So it does look like this is very much accumulation period, very much just sort of, gathering momentum until we have that turn. We're very much waiting for the FOMC in the following week to see where this is going, whether they're going to cut rates and, allow the easing sort of period to come in and that to go back into the market, hopefully. So, crypto and traditionals have been hit rather hard over the last probably month. So, it's looking good that we're going to get a turn. So, this is one of my long-term charts that you would have seen on Twitter, and we're very much still following this pattern. We've had one touch to this support. So this support goes from underneath the 2017, then it goes to where we had our first wave one in the last bull run. And now we're coming back and we're retesting that as support. So it has been, tested and retested and broken through and broken down over the period. So it is quite a pivotal support in this region. So coming back down to this region is about 50. I'm going to put some glasses on so I can see the tiny little numbers. About 53, 52.5, 53. That's predominantly what we want to see as the low. The bottom here is around 49. So it's still possible to pierce down and to get a double bottom or to get a lower low in this region before we do take off. So if we're looking at the lowest support and we do get a wick down to this region, that can go right down to about 41. Not ideal, but is possible. So, potentially this is our wave one. I do think we're in a wave four of this wave one. So we do want that to sort of complete by the end of the year, come back down for a quick retest and then head up for that wave three. So if I go to this chart, the quantitative tightening and easing chart. So, potentially we should be going into a quantitative easing period, which is where we see, the halving, and then we see easing begin probably about 6 to 9 months after we do get that halving. So you can see that in this region here, we got the halving in 2016 and we went completely sideways for probably, so this halving was in June 16. This sideways period lasted until March 17. And then we got our first really huge high. Again, you can see we've got the cycle bottom and then our tightening has begun in this region coming up. And then once we've got that, the COVID issues and everything, we had those period where we sort of hung around in this region for quite some time. So where we see our bottom and we see our halving, And then we didn't get a period of sideways for quite so long. So from our halving, which was April 20, to about the point where we got taking off, it was only about 6 months. So in this region as well, where we've seen this has been 6 months, this crazy sideways chop, chop, chop. So, you know, while it looks like bigger and, you know, more extended, when we zoom in to these regions and we go back down, it doesn't look dissimilar to what we've seen previously. So we can see that we've got, you know, the waves up, we've come back down in this region. This is kind of, if we were looking back on pattern, where we would be sitting now for BTC. So you can see that from there, massive, massive increase. So, you know, that's the end of August, sort of, you know, we had a bounce sort of heading into September. By the end of September in 2020, we were absolutely taking off and you know, completely into our bullish momentum. So, you know, if you think that can't happen, have a look at this region. Have a look here, because it's very, very, very similar. So we are holding supports, we are holding the right areas. So there's no reason why history doesn't repeat. It's a 4-year cycle. We hit the bottom. So this is a chart that I had before we did hit those bottoms. If you head to TradingView, the chart's there. So, you know, within that 4-year cycle, I had a timing that it would happen between, you know, 11:11 and 21:12, and I think it literally hit on the 21st of November. So that was FTX. And, you know, there's always a catalyst that causes these huge declines. So, you know, we had Luna and FTX in that last cycle. Previous cycle, we had liquidity and deleveraging crisis. BitMEX was one of the major players in that. And previous to that, you know, obviously we've had Mt. Gox, which has crashed the market, and I can never think of it. BitConnect. So BitConnect was in there as well. It's funny how I have to think of it like that. But you can see that we're in this part of the market where, you know, everyone's getting frustrated. Everyone's going, oh my God, this is never going to end. But, you know, history repeats itself on Bitcoin. It is a 4-year cycle. You know, the same traders trade it. So Elliott Wave works on the premise that it's a money cycle and that it's basically patterns that people follow. So if we're looking at patterns, people are starting to get annoyed. People are starting to throw their toys out of the window. That's when we're going to get that last, you know, pullback, and that's when we take off. So when everyone's absolutely fed up with going sideways for 6 months, that's when we've got the bottom.
Excellent. Well, plenty of optimism then for what Bitcoin should be doing next, because I also have noticed throughout the social media channels a lot of fed upness and people, you know, just clinging on and hoping for the next push up. So and would you agree that in the past it tends to catch people by surprise when it suddenly turns and goes, or is it more gradual?
No, it literally just turns and goes. So, you know, if we go back to that chart that I was showing, hang on the quantitative one. So, you know, we were here, we had the deleveraging and the COVID bottom. I'm just going to zoom in on that again, because when we zoom into these things, they look vastly different. You know, obviously this is slightly different this time because we have had a new all-time high before the actual bull run does commence. Reason I believe that has happened is because this is a wave 3. So a wave 3 is our fastest and swiftest wave, and that will absolutely just obliterate everything when it starts moving. So we can see that, this is our now 4 years ago. So our period, so if I go, we're the 9th here in the UK, we're around this period here where we sort of had a lot of congestion, a lot of we had, that pullback. We've got that congestion here, and then we absolutely just took off. So, that's very, very, very likely again to happen. And you can see that, while people were waiting for the pullbacks, it just kept going up. So this region here for me is a buy the dip. So, if you're dollar cost averaging or, wanting to get ready for that bull run, now is the time to do it. So, obviously, if it does go the other way, nothing's guaranteed, but it does look like this is following the 4-year cycle. Have a stop loss lower, have that sitting there, because if it absolutely goes down and goes the other way, you don't want to lose all of your capital. But long term, and potentially, near future, this is looking great.
Yeah, I know for anyone in GSIC, if you go to the HODL portfolio section, Lisa and I have just renewed our HODL portfolio. We've got an updated portfolio there. You will be able to see all the coins, percentages, and what we are doing, how we're DCAing. So if you're in the group, go and check that out. And if you're not in the group, it's time to subscribe and check that out. Cool. Okay. Where to next? Ethereum, possibly?
Ethereum, I'm not going to look at too many alts at the moment because they're still a bit ugly. But let's check Ethereum, and I'll check Solana as well, because, they're literally our 3 majors, and, what we can sort of see, where we can see the momentum sort of changing. Now, this is a daily on Ethereum. So I've got Fibonacci on this last wave. For me, there's 3 very, very tight waves in there, maybe a leading diagonal, because it is quite triangulated in that region. So if I was to draw sort of a triangle here, we can see that we did get quite, and that for me would be a leading diagonal. Leading diagonals return to where they began. We are coming back to close to the bottom, if not the bottom, on Ethereum. And that for me is literally buying the dip in this region. If we're on the daily here, so this is high time frames, so we can gauge sort of overall direction. If we look at the MACD, we are starting to turn up. Our RSI down here has been sitting on the region that this region, once it crosses below, and it does cross, that's a buy for me on the daily. So we got that on the 7th of September, 2 days ago. So, and that's a long-term buy. So even though it may have one more pullback in this region just before it absolutely takes off, I will have my stop loss down below this region and, trading up. So, and taking little bits and pieces as it pulls back. So I do think there's 5 waves in that, and then the pullback. So the major pivot for Ethereum is quite high. So it's 3,250. A break above there would be ideal, and that does see us as super bullish. The immediate pivot is 2,430. So breaking that means we'll likely see that upper pivot. So that's what I'm seeing for Ethereum, but we are starting to see that momentum change on a lot of the daily charts. You can see that we've got easing sell pressure, and these indicators are starting to swoop up. So, strong signs that we are seeing momentum changing here.
Okay.
And sorry, Josh.
Yeah, no, yours.
I'm going to go US dollar dominance. So we are almost look like we've almost completed the B wave. So that does mean we're coming down for that C wave. So that allows BTC to complete this pattern pull back, and then have the major run for the year ahead. So yeah, looking really solid. All right, let
Excellent.
me grab
And like you say, I think Sol is up there, almost top 3 now with Bitcoin and Ethereum. So and
yeah,
we've had a request for it. So let's jump into that.
yeah. Let me just get some lines off here. So this is an hourly, and we can see that, you know, if we can get above these MAs on the hourly, then we're going to retest this resistance again. But again, I'm going to bring this up and just look at higher time frames, just to sort of see where we can see momentum changing. So Solana very much looks like this is a fourth wave. It's quite a corrective fourth wave and sideways. So it has so far held a very tight channel. The median line on this channel is about 145. So that's essentially also our pivot in this region. And then we've got an upper pivot here at 171. So like with ETH, that 171 is that major bullish pivot, which is going to change momentum completely. So that is an area to, you know, set some alerts if you've got those on TradingView. And just keep watch, because I do think that is going to be tested fairly soon. Once we're out of this bearish momentum and, you know, that market starts to change, which it is doing. So if we go and we have a look at the MACD, you know, we can see that we've got easing sell pressure, and we're starting to, you know, to creep up with our indicators. So once this crosses, it's just going to take off. So this is where you want to start, you know, taking nibbles and building your bags for this next run, because the momentum is starting to change. So, you know, that doesn't mean that there can't be one more retest of this support on this channel. That is entirely possible. But for me, this is definitely by the dip in this region. So, and this is where, you know, we are DCAing our long-term bags for GSIC, and just showing everyone how this is possible. So, you know, we, you know, doubled our money on the first bounce. So we're sitting quite pretty for this next bull run in. So, and yeah, the major part of the bull run, which is what we should be going into, is where all the money is made. You know, a lot of economists are calling it a blow off the top. So, you know, where we're going to see traditionals, you know, make that one last high and then go into a deeper correction. You know, that's entirely possible with how the world is going, and we're in a stage in the traditional markets where, you know, fiat currency is kind of changing completely to digital currency, and that's when cryptocurrencies are really going to take off. And of course, continue watching what BRICS are doing, because that's super important. So if you don't know what BRICS is, it is Brazil, Russia, India, China, South Africa, and a whole heap of Asian nations that have joined up to essentially cause de-dollarization. So yeah, very interesting. I've got an article coming out soon on that as well.
I was going to say, as much as there's an article, I think there could be a Twitter space or perhaps another wrap-up dedicated to that, in your observations on the wider kind of global financial state and theories as to what might happen next. So maybe there's room out there. Okay, excellent. So in terms of alts, did you want to look at any, or did you want to give an overall picture, or how do you feel about that?
I think once we need to kind of see what's happening, you know, with Bitcoin, whether that's turning like soon, because alts are not really going to do much until Bitcoin does something. So unfortunately.
Okay, yeah, no problem. For those of you in GSIC, you do have the live chat at your disposal, which you can pop a coin request in there at any time. We will get round to it when we can. Anything else you wanted to wrap up with, to wrap up the wrap up?
Just keep buying the dip, guys, and yeah, make sure you're protecting your capital, and you know, have a stop loss, have a non-negotiable region that if the markets do take a turn and they absolutely crash, that you've got a stop loss there, and yeah, that's protecting your capital.
Excellent. Okay, well, thanks everyone for joining us again. We will be with you again next week. Have a great week ahead, and we'll catch you then.
Cool. Thanks, guys.
Bye.
Bye.